I'd reached out to this motivational speaking group because I find it deeply interesting what you guys do. Tony Whatley, thank you for coming in. I appreciate it. Thank you so much for coming into the studio. But what is it there? I guess there's a difference, motivational speaking versus, you're essentially giving the people the tools and they have to run with it. Right. So how do you put that in a package? How do you put that together so that somebody has what they need to be successful in life, to carry on their business in a certain way? Like, how do you formulate all that?
I think first we need to distinguish the difference between motivational speaker and speakers. There's different types of speakers. There's people who just speak purely on motivation, and it's a lot of fluff and rah and let's do the great things and be the best version of ourselves. And yes, while I believe in those principles and those ideals, I'm a businessman that just happens to speak. There's people that are speakers full time that don't really run businesses or haven't really had any success in business. So I became a business owner 20 years ago, had really good success at that. And then eventually in the last 5 years decided I wanted to go become a speaker. And I actually had stage fright. I used to not like being on microphones or cameras or stages. And I had to get over that fear because at some point in my life, my fear just was worth less than my purpose. And so I became the speaker and I wrote that book. And as I was writing the book, I was hoping to avoid the cameras and the stages. But then people started wanting to interview me. So I had to prepare and become the right person to carry the story.
Yeah.
And that's it. So I don't say I'm a motivational speaker. I may motivate. I've got thousands of entrepreneurs in my group. But my intention is to give them the confidence and the business principles and the skills so that they're a successful business owner.
Do you find, and I've come across this, and it feels like, I'm sure everybody has a degree of this, but I have found that men have they feel comfortable talking in groups, but getting in front of people. Do you find that there's that it's harder for, say, helping people get, whether it's male or female? Is there a bigger difference between the two of them?
I would say that men are definitely more confident, maybe when they always shouldn't be as confident. We tend to be just a little bit more certain of ourselves, where women tend to overthink a lot of things. And even if they are qualified to stand in front of someone and speak and teach those things, they have to go through the worst case scenarios, and they always want to second guess themselves, and the self-doubt starts to creep in. So you'll find that even in the corporate sector that women are not as likely to ask for promotions or try to move up the corporate ladder as fast because they have that self-doubt, where men are overconfident. They think that they got this, they can figure it out. Even if they don't know anything, they can fake it till they make it type scenario. So I think there's a little bit difference between, generally speaking. I know there's different standouts from each side, but that's what I've seen.
What do you specifically, like with women, what do you put out there for them to help them overcome? Kind of what do you I'm assuming everybody's different, but what do you do like to help? I mean, yes, historically women aren't as likely to ask for these things, and well deserving they should. I like to say this. This is just my personal opinion. My experience with women is that I think women are more capable in every way than men, with one exception, and that's physical activity. I believe that they're more empathetic. I believe that their emotional, their EQ is obviously way higher. They're typically more patient. So what do you do with some of your female clients to kind of help them overcome some of those obstacles to get them to that point where they feel confident enough?
I think we see a lot of this in society right now. A lot of people lead with emotion, especially the last 2 years. It's all been emotion and fear, and we're either driven by dopamine or we're driven by all the cortisol, the fear hormones, right? Women, like I said, when they're self-doubting themselves, they have a second guess of themselves. It's just a lack of confidence. And what they are is they're putting emotions first. And there are some men that put their emotions ahead of their logic. So in order to get them to snap out of that, we just basically have to reframe what their logic is and sometimes we do what I call an exercise called the dream log or the victory log, some people call about that. And that's just a chronological list of all the accomplishments and things that made you happy in your life, things that you achieved. You graduated, you went to school, you landed this first gig, your first child, like just a chronological list. It's a living list that you update whenever you have something you want to add to it. But when you have something like that, that's a tangible piece of evidence of the things that you've achieved in your life. Whenever you're having those moments of self-doubt, you can usually have this on your cell phone. Pull it out and just start reading the lines of the things that you've accomplished and things that bring you a lot of joy and happiness in your life. And you're going to quickly realize that the fears that you have in your mind don't really hold a candle to all the things that you've actually achieved. And you start to realize, like, I've done this, I've got this. Like, look at all these things I've done. We just tend to forget because we're so hyper-focused on that problem or that challenge that's facing us today. But we just need those reminders. And I think men generally are just kind of just the opposite of that. They just kind of don't really think about that, the fear. They just know that we're also taught as young boys to just go after the things that are challenging us, like hit the bully back, do the things that make you uncomfortable. Hey, if you're bleeding when you fall down, just get up and rub dirt in it and get after it, right? I mean, we're conditioned to go after things that are confrontational and be combative, and there is some of that in our nature. It's a physiological thing that we have, biological. So for the women, I generally attract the alpha women, the people that are more think like men. They just want to get stuff done. They want the recognition. They want to get the influence. They want to build the companies. They're go-getters. Very few women in the entrepreneurship space are the risk adverse and the people hiding and the people who are just not betting on themselves. So I think that as a principle, my audience and my client base, they generally tend to be the high achievers and the people that don't want to take no for an answer.
Have you brought up the last couple years?
Mm-hmm.
What obstacles have you run into getting people to overcome this emotional fear, this desire, well, almost like this shelter down in place kind of thing, where you bring everything inside, you internalize it. And obviously with the environment we've lived in, people are having to just bring a lot of stuff in. What kind of obstacles have you encountered over the past couple of years getting specifically women to overcome a lot of that stuff?
Man, I think it's really this applies to not only women, but men also. It's who you hang around with, who you surround yourself with. If you spend way too much time hanging around with a group of people that talks about remember when, because they feel like they peaked earlier in their life at some point, whether it was high school or college or before kids came along, they always want to talk about the past and rehash the good old days. If you start hanging around with people that talk about imagine when instead of remember when, mm-hmm. you're going to have a lot better outcomes, because those are the kind of people that will see the potential in you that you don't see for yourself. And they're going to hold you to a higher standard. They're going to look at you and go, hey, you have so much talent. You have so much skill. You have this ability. Why aren't you using that? Why are you holding back? Why are you afraid of? Like, these are the things that the people you want to be around. And it's not always going to be your best friends, because they would rather value the relationship rather than the truth. And sometimes you just need that dose of truth. It's polite, it's respectful truth, but that's what we really want to have around us, is people who can see the potential within us to help us get past those times of low self-esteem or low confidence, and also challenge us, because as humans, we actually do want challenge, even though a lot of people avoid it. We crave challenge because we understand that that's growth. It's exciting when we live on that edge.
Well, there's a saying that if you surround yourself with 5 millionaires, you're bound to become the 6th. So we actually, my best friend, Fred, he actually came to me a couple weeks ago, and he told me, he says, man, I want to thank you for giving me the confidence to push me to get out and take that risk. Because like I told you, he had started his own business, and that's scary. I don't care who you are. That's frightening, especially at 40 years old. To take away the security of the successful job that he's had for the last 20 years, to say, you know what, I'm gonna do this on my own. And he came to me and just said, thank you for for encouraging me. He says, you're like, just by watching the things I do, you know. Do you like with your clients, with your clients and everything, is that the number one obstacle that they face, to literally have to just step away from a lot of these people?
It is, and it's tough. And the thing is that you mentioned that phrase, that you become the average of the people you hang around. We hear this phrase, it's been around for decades. I think even Napoleon Hill was saying that in the mid-1950s or so, right? But we hear that and we know that that's good advice, and we nod our head and we go, yeah, that sounds great. But the thing is that nobody fucking does anything about it.
Yeah.
They don't actually take the actions. And I'll give you a real example. 2018 was tough for my wife and I because I'd left my corporate business. I was working for Chevron, multiple six-figure earner. I was building companies in my automotive space that I love. But I decided I want to go be a coach and become a speaker, and wrote that book. It actually came out in 2018. And some of the people we had known for decades weren't really supportive of that. They were kind of thinking like, why are you leaving your career? And why would anyone leave that behind? I mean, you're making all this money, and why do you want to be a speaker and write a book? It's making them really uncomfortable, right? And some of the people that were really close, people that we had been in their weddings, people that were, on vacations with. And so we had a hard year in 2018, realizing that there was a lot of people out there that were not really supportive, but we were getting a lot of support from people that were generally strangers, right? And we woke up on New Year's Day on 2019, and we were vacationing in Colorado Springs at the time. And my wife and I said, we're going to change 2019. We're just going to make a list of the people that we deem as toxic or unsupportive. You go on that side of the hotel room. I'll go on the side. Here's your pen and paper. Go write down names, and I'll go write down my list of names, and we'll convene when we're done. And as husband and wife, we'll just agree, like, maybe we should remove those people or create real boundaries in our life from those people. And I had about 10 names. She probably had 12, 15 names. And we went through them and explained why. And we just took a agreement as a husband and wife that we're going to create boundaries. We don't have to hate these people, but we can just start distancing ourselves by not taking their invites, or just not hanging out with them, or not asking them to do stuff. Don't follow up with them. Just create boundaries, whether that's unfriending them from Facebook or just not associating with them, right? Not taking the calls, or just making just reasons not to go hang out. Hey, I've got something already planned, but thank you for that invite. Never say like, let me take a rain check, because that always creates the opportunity that they ask you again. Just go, I'm really overbooked, and really sorry about that. And so you know how this works. When you say no enough times, they quit asking, and that's not a bad thing, right? That's a very peaceful way of creating boundaries with people. And so we did that. It was really hard. And I'll tell you that those that are listening, like, you're thinking like, man, that's tough. Like, you want to know it's tough. Like, one of those was the maid of honor, my wife's best friend since high school. Gone. Like, we haven't talked to them in years now, right? This is 2019. And the reason you have to understand this is that, well, how do I know who's on that list and who's not? Well, the easiest way I can think about is, we all have cell phones nowadays. If somebody calls your phone and you see their name on their screen, what's your initial reaction to that name? Do you go, wow, I can't wait to talk to this person. It's been a while. Let's catch up. Or do you go, oh, fuck, what now? Oh, no, here we go. Like, if you have a negative reaction to somebody's name just on your screen, they're probably on the toxic list. Let's be real. They're draining your energy. They're just drama. They're just something that you don't look forward to having the conversation with them. It could be your mom. It could be your uncle. It could be your brother, sister. Like, it doesn't matter. These are the people that, we say energy vampires, because they're always sucking the energy out of you. If they're leaving you depleted every single time you guys have an interaction, probably someone that you don't need to be hanging around with, right? So there's no maybes. You notice that? Like, there's nobody that's on the maybe list. Right away when you see that reaction, or you see them come, and you're like, your physiological state just tells you like, damn it, like, wish you wouldn't have seen me at this party. Shit, he's going to come over and talk to me now. Like, so take the hard actions and create those boundaries. That's the hard part. Nobody will do that. And once you do this, it's going to start to feel like a little bit of an emptiness inside of you. You're going to feel like you lost somebody, like they died. And you go through this mourning phase, however long that relationship is or how long it meant something to you, you're going to go through a mourning phase, and you're going to have a lot of self-doubt, like maybe I'm the asshole and maybe I shouldn't have done that, or maybe I overreacted. And you're going to have all these doubtful questions. And I'll tell you that over time, just like when you do lose somebody in real life, it starts to dissipate and you start to realize like that was the right move. And you start to see that your life is improving. You're not having these toxic type interruptions in your life on a daily or weekly basis. And you start to realize like that was the right move. And then 6-7 months down the road, you realize like, man, I'm so glad I did that. A year in, you're like, damn, that's like changed my life. You start to surround yourself with the people that actually bring you energy. It's like a whole different place to live.
Yeah. Well, yeah, because you get into this place where it's like when you get married, if you're still hanging around like single people, if that's your circle of friends, you're going to inevitably do those kinds of things that aren't necessarily conducive for a married life.
Right.
You're going to be at bars and you're going to be hanging around, and that's going to create a whole other series of problems that could go down the road of, oh my God, you looked at somebody the wrong way, or oh my God, somebody, gave you a drink. And it's like, you get into that cycle that can bring you down because you're just trying to be with these other people that are your friends.
Absolutely.
And and though you love them, they're making your life worse.
Totally, man. Haven't you heard the phrase divorce is contagious?
Oh yeah.
Most people don't understand what that means, but let's say you're a happily married person listening or watching this. And one of your best friends or 2 or 3 of your best friends get recently divorced, and they all start hanging out and doing single things again, and they're inviting you out to come out and hang out with them. That's not a problem doing that. But what happens is a couple glasses of wine in, they're complaining about their husband or their ex-husbands, and they're wanting you to partake and complain about your current husband. And you start to resurface all these negative things about your husband because everybody's got something annoying about him. Like nobody's perfect. Let's be real, right? Yeah. But it's contagious. So you start to have this seeds planted in your mind about how your husband or your wife is just so bad for you, and like how much freeing it could have been. You could be out there partying with your friends and doing things like that again. And you start to have a lot different thoughts on a weekly or daily basis about where you are in life. And then you may end up in that divorce. It's pretty good odds that you'll end up in the divorce column as well.
Very similar to if you're hanging around 5 divorced people, you're going to end up being the 6th one.
Yeah.
Yeah, it puts the same thing out there. Well, you said something earlier that when you guys made this decision, I'm assuming you went to your wife, you were working your corporate job.
Not at that time. This was after this. I left corporate in 2015.
Okay. And so, but you made this decision pretty much in 2018, 2019. But you said that it made a lot of your friends around you uncomfortable. Do you think that was their own internalized fear of like not understanding and not really, they know that they couldn't do or fear to do what you're proposing to do? And so they're kind of manifesting that towards you guys?
Yeah, I know that now. I've done a lot of work internally to understand this, and I teach this now. I understood that. But when you're living through that moment, when it initially strikes you, you start to think it's you. You start to think about, what did I do wrong? Did I piss those people off? Am I a jerk? Or you start to really look internal for the answer, but it's always external, right? Yeah. And it's exactly what you said, that when people, we call them haters or naysayers or critics, right? When they see you start to shine brighter and want more in your life, they don't always understand that, because the fact is that most people feel like they've overshot their potential in a given time. So maybe they have a little bit more success than they ever thought that was possible for them, right? And I'll tell you that this actually occurs at every socioeconomic level, because I've grown up broke, became a multimillionaire, and I've seen it at every level. You can never out-earn this, right? Because at every level you get to, the people kind of think that they're on the same plateau. They kind of think they're all in the same box. And then when you start to hang out for a while, they get comfortable with where you're at, and they can put a label on you. But then you decide you want to go do more, you want to climb, and you start to go on the corner here, and you start building a ladder or some scaffolds to get to the next level. And they're like, hey, why is Jason climbing out now? Like, what's going on? Like, we're all cool here. Like, we're supposed to be hanging out like, the boys. And so you're over there building your ladder and you're trying to explain to them, but they don't want to hear it because they've already thinking that nobody's discovered that they're the fraud that made it to that level, because they think they're really, it's only supposed to be a couple levels below that, right? And so they're like, oh shit, like I'm just glad to be here and they haven't found me out yet, but here's this guy over here wanting more. Like, so they start thinking about, why am I not doing that? Why am I not over there helping him build a ladder? Why am I not starting a business or going on a weight loss journey or just doing something different with my life? Why am I not writing a book or launching a podcast? And the thing is, they know they could, but it's a whole lot easier just to criticize you to keep you at the same level than it is for them to go put in the effort to keep up with you. So people will always project what they lack onto you. They call you, you have no humility. You got a little hubris, and you're cocky and you're arrogant. That's all the things that they wish they had. They realize that they're maybe too agreeable with people, and they're not really confident, and they don't have any influence. And you'll find out, even this is the funniest part about successful people, like financially successful people, they get really envious when you gain more influence than them. They may have more money than you, but if they realize that you have more influence than them, that's the thing that they really want. They think that money was going to get them there, but it didn't always get there. And they see you as a leader, and people are following you and doing things and doing, supporting you. And that's the thing that they want. So they're going to call you arrogant. They're going to call you, cocky, or you have hubris, to try to keep you from shining that light. So they're just going to ask you to dim your light, but you can't do that.
What would you define as financially successful?
I would say financially successful. It depends on where you live. There's a lot of variables, but I would say a couple million net. If you can have that, that's pretty good in the United States. I know that the average household income is in the 68,000 range here. I mean, you start making 200,000 a year, it's a different lifestyle than when you're making 50,000 a year. But I'll tell you, once you get to that 200,000 range, it really doesn't change up to like the 500,000 a year range. It's pretty good life either way. You'll just have a little bit nicer car, a higher quantity of things, but it doesn't bring you happiness. And I think that people can roll their eyes when they hear that, this guy made millions of dollars and he's saying like money doesn't buy happiness. It's like, well, it's true. And you can only take that from advice from people who have achieved it, because to everybody else, it's like, it's full of shit. Like, it's a way to validate for not succeeding, right? But money and success and happiness are not the same thing. And I hate that people chase it, but I think that I was happy as a broke person. I'm happy with money. So I think that if you're not happy right now, if you're listening to this, you're not happy, there's something inside that you got to go fix. Work with a psychiatrist or psychologist or a coach, or just there's something that you need to address or confront, the challenge you need to confront, the hard conversation sometimes. But that's the work you got to do. It has nothing to do with money.
Yeah. Yeah. Cause you can, I've always had this conversation, when my father was alive, and, he started the business that I run, and, he came from nothing. I mean, in one generation, he was literally living in a house with his mother, father, and 3 other siblings. That is roughly the size of my game room. And so he knows what being broke is. He knows what being poor is. And he always strived for more, where he wanted to take the company and build it into a, $50, $60 million a year juggernaut. My thought process on it always was, granted, I grew up I was spoiled. I was a spoiled child. Never really lived without. I wasn't broke until I was about 25, and I'd spent all my money and had gone through divorce and everything. So I got kind of internalized, okay, what meant to be financially successful for me? And for me, to start with, it was the ability not to have to look at my bank account when I go buy groceries.
I like that.
To know that every month that my bills are paid. And if I got a little bit extra to go maybe do a little trip or something like that, that's luxury. But I started with that very simple premise and eventually reworked the business in that light to say, hey, with X amount of business comes X amount of struggle and headache. If I can eliminate, even if I have to eliminate, say, 50% of the revenue at the business, I eliminate like 75% of the headache.
Right.
So I've actually become a little more financially successful.
And happier.
And that's, for me, what it came down to be, because I was traveling a lot.
Yeah, me too.
And I wasn't happy. Hey, it's great. I actually just made a post on my Instagram yesterday. Well, Instagram, Facebook, where I had started collecting when I was young, traveled all over the world, been to every state, every major city with the exception of Alaska. I mean, I have been everywhere. But growing up, I never had like I have little to no physical souvenirs from any of those places. So what I did was I started 5 years ago. I was traveling a lot for work. As I had said to you, coming out of prison, I spent 4 years completely without. And I learned a completely different level of appreciation for certain things. And I was literally one of these people that said, I am going to appreciate every moment possible. Mm-hmm. I never used to care about the sunrise. But now everywhere I go, I make sure I'm up. I would sleep all day. If I was in a hotel and I didn't have to be somewhere, we didn't have any plans, whatever, I would sleep all day, whatever. Now I intentionally make sure I am up wherever I'm at to see the sunrise in that place. It's like an exercise you used to do in school. Dead Poet Society. It's a movie. You know what I'm talking about? Okay. He has the entire class stand on the table. The whole time they're sitting over here looking at him. He has the entire class march up and stand at the top of that table. They're in the same exact room with the same exact people, but they're seeing it from a completely different perspective. They're viewing it through almost like a totally different lens. And what I wanted to make sure was that as I got into those places, I wasn't going to pass up on that experience that I never captured before. So I wanted something that would physically embody that. So I came across a Starbucks one day. I didn't start drinking coffee till I was 30. And now I'll drink, but I make my own every morning. I refuse Starbucks, but Black Rifle Coffee Company. Yeah. God bless those guys. But I came across a Starbucks because I needed coffee in the morning. And they had these cups. And it's something like Where You Are Here series or something like that. And it's just a big old mug that has like the name of the city or the name of the state or something like that on it. And I was like, so I started collecting those. And the post I'd made yesterday is ironic because I had gotten almost 30 of these cups. And like 90% of these trips, 95% of these trips, my ex-wife had not come with me.
Right.
So these were memories I had. But for some reason, she decided that she wanted those cups because they meant something to me. Emotionally, they meant something to me. Nothing else. Tables, chairs, stuff like that, whatever. She knew these cups meant something to me. So she tried to take that emotion from me, that feeling, the memory. And so I started rebuilding it. And we just came back from Utah. And I put this cup up as a physical embodiment of a remembering of where I've been, writing down the things, memorizing, saying, you know what? I went to Vegas and they didn't have a cup. And I was bummed. When I got home, it's like I couldn't put the cup up there, but I opened up the cabinet and I saw the 16 other cups that were up there from the last 2 years. I'm like, well, you know what? It's been I'm very fortunate. I didn't worry about it because past that this year I've already done 3, great trips this year. And And the happiness side of it that people miss out on so much, where it's not about, well, I saw something that you'd put up, and I wanted to ask your opinion of this, because I had this very, very, very conversation with somebody. You'd posted something on your social media that talked about your New Year's resolutions. What was the purpose of that? What were you trying to do there?
I was speaking in Dallas the first week of this year, and I just realized that I'm there speaking to a bunch of people that aren't always business owners. It was a patriotic event, Great American Summit, and I said, I usually speak at business events, but this one's probably half business people and half people that just are patriotic. So I had to make a message that reached everybody. And so that was a motivational speech, and I talked about visualization and things like that. So in order to clear the room, I remember seeing on social media, usually the first week or the New Year's Day, you see a lot of people that are either pro New Year's resolutions or people that want to naysay it and say like, oh, you should be awesome every single day. And like, like New Year's resolutions are stupid. Like they start just saying stuff like that. Even some of the people I admire would be negative against it. And while I agree with their principle that, yeah, you should be improving and doing things better every day. That's my brand. We should never try to turn away from people from trying to start something anytime, even if that happens to be New Year's Day. So I always wanted to make sure I encourage people that, hey, if you have New Year's resolutions and you believe in that, like put it out there. Like don't keep it to yourself, put it out there, because most people unfortunately will create these resolutions in silence and they'll never put it out there. That way they're not held accountable. So basically they can build this room to contain their dream, and then they can put a secret escape door in the back that should they decide to leave out that escape door, nobody's going to know. So let's say that you're morbidly obese and you go, hey, you know what, 2022, I'm going to actually take my health in consideration and start eating healthy and working out at least 2 days a week. That's what I'm going to do. You try that for about a month and you go, man, this is tough. Like my joints are hurting and I'm just sore everywhere. I'm not made out for this. I'm just going to quit. And then they do, and they never told anybody. So nobody even knew they attempted their dream or that they quit their dream. So it's kind of like this free pass. And what I find is when you put your resolutions out there, even if it's today, if we're recording it today and you're watching and listening and you have a dream that you want to put out there, gain some external accountability until you've earned the discipline that you've got proven results. If you got results and you're the kind of person that's just, hey, I'm going to go do this, and you crush it and you get the results, you don't have to put that out there because you've built the discipline already. You're already self-sufficient. You don't need the external validation or support. You know that you're an operator. You can go do that stuff. But if you're not that person and you really want to accomplish something like that book or launching a podcast or doing something like that's out of your norm, put it out there and actually ask people that are not your best friends to hold you accountable, because your best friends, again, we told earlier, they value the relationship more than the truth, and they're not going to push you as hard as an accountability partner. So put it out there, call your shots, and then execute. But that's the New Year's resolution thing. I mean, it's a worldwide day that people are excited about the future. They don't know what's coming. They're uncertain, but they're excited about it. If people could just learn how to become excited about uncertainty and the unknown every day, that would greatly impact their life. They would have such a higher positive outlook on life, because you like to talk about your friend starting his business, right? And you said, like, it's so scary to start because he had a stable job. And I don't agree with that. Like we've seen in the last 2 years, the government could come in and just shut down your company or your employer. So there's no stable job. There's no steady income, because when you work for somebody else, your employment is literally just one person's decision away from existing. One person. And it's not you a lot of times. The only time it's your decision is if you decide to quit or go get another job. But every other person, your manager, their boss, the company, the private equity company that's buying the company you work for, like there's a lot of single decision points of failure that can occur that will leave you unemployed. So it's not stable. It's not even in your control. Where as a business owner, let's say that you were one of the ones that was unfortunately called, non-essential, and we're going to have to close your business for the 14 days to flatten the curve. Like, like let's say that was you, right?
Yeah.
Well, as an entrepreneur, you're not unemployed, because you can say, hey, I'm resourceful. I've got a team. What are the skill sets you have, Mike? What about you, Susan? What about you, John? All right, we got some different skill sets here. I've got an LLC or an S Corp that we can still report income to. I've got ways to getting paid. I've got my merchant accounts. I've got my PayPal, my Stripe. I've got processes. I've got tools, apps, software, machinery, whatever your business is. Like, you have a lot of different options you could have pivoted, even if it was temporary, to go be resourceful. Therefore, your unemployment didn't occur because you got to do something to change that. You could make it an online business versus in-person business. You can be a delivery restaurant versus an in-house restaurant. So there was a lot of ways for entrepreneurs to be creative in that time, and we saw that. More businesses were started in the last 2 years than a long history of the United States in the COVID session. So we realized that these side hustles and these businesses actually were started because of this pandemic. And I think that's awesome because it empowered people. And they realized, like, hey, I can work from home. Like, do you really think that people are going to go back to offices? The best performing people are going to be going back to offices after all this? They're not going to go back. If you want to be a competitive company and be able to employ the top of the top, unless it's a service-based company where they require your physical presence, they're not going to want to work in an office. They're going to be like, hey, dude, I spent 2 years at home and I got just as much done and had a happier life and got to spend time with my family. And I was able to start 2 businesses on the side to make extra money. Like, why the hell would I ever want to go sit in a cubicle farm ever again?
Yeah. Yeah. And you're just a number.
Your number.
Well, the side hustle millionaire here is there a lot of stuff in here that's about that? That's about pretty much what happened over the last couple of years?
You know, it's kind of funny because I had no idea. We had no idea that, 2020 would occur. That book came out 2 years before that. And it was really, that book was in my mind for about 5 years before I wrote it. And I remember even working at the oil companies, I would drive sometimes from the Woodlands to Katy. And those of you that aren't in Houston, that's like an hour and 15 one way sitting in traffic.
I explained that actually to somebody yesterday.
Yeah.
I had explained like the distance from where I'm at to Katy on full freeway.
Still 45 minutes.
45 minutes
45
still.
minutes.
Doing 75, 80 the entire way.
And hoping there's no traffic.
Yeah.
So here I was driving almost 3 hours a day commuting to go sit in a cubicle and a group of 10 other cubicles. That was a project team because my supervisor lived in Katy and she wanted to use the contractor's office building that was in Katy instead of us going downtown, where I could have rode the bus downtown, right? That was easy for me. I could get on the park and ride and ride bus downtown, and like I could be on the internet while we're commuting. But no, she wanted us to drive 3 hours a day. And the teams I was managing were in England, France, and Africa.
Oh, Jesus.
So I'm driving 3 hours a day to guide 3 teams on a $250 million project that were in a different time zone on the other side of the planet, who were relatively gone out of the office by noon our time. And so I realized, like, this is the most stupid thing ever. Like, I'm literally driving 3 hours a day to have a window of 4 hours to manage these people. And then the rest of the afternoon, there's nothing but my productivity, the things I had to work on. But it was all because of the ego of that supervisor wanting all her little ducklings in a row so that when she walked out of her little bit bigger cubicle office with a sliding door, she felt really important because she had all her little reports sitting there, even though there was no conversations or directives, because we were all managing really big parts of $1 billion project. We didn't have these interactions with her, but her ego was always the thing that was keeping us there. And eventually I raised that with HR. I was like, hey, I'm driving 3 hours away to manage people on the other side of the world. Like, this doesn't make sense. Can I go back to commuting downtown? At least it's a bus and I can veg out or listen or take a nap if I want to. And they said, yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Why are you working in Katy? That's not even one of our offices. Oh, because the supervisor wanted us to be in her office area because it was 5 minutes from her house. So yeah, there's your little job security and corporate dose. So I realized, like, no, people need to work at home. People need to be building businesses. I built these companies. I was making about $400,000 a year profit from my side businesses. And a lot of people are like, well, why didn't you quit and go do that full time? It's because I had built these into automated online businesses that didn't require my presence.
Yeah.
So me working 15 minutes a day or 8 hours a day wasn't going to increase my top line revenue. I was the number one in the market share for General Motors performance cars, ls1tech.com. And so I didn't have to be there to run that business. I mean, literally I was working offshore. I was working international, just like you, traveling a lot. And I didn't have to be anywhere. So I built that with that in mind. It's like, why do I need to be there? Like, what am I going to do 8 hours a day? It's like play video games all day? It's like, no, I can go make a couple $100,000 extra a year and run projects and actually learn processes and systems. And I learned a whole lot of things at these corporate companies. So I valued that time.
I would have to, I agree, but I think a lot of that is that old corporate mindset.
Yeah.
Because big references always go back to my dad, was that when, he had, we have our office, and his number one thing was he didn't care who you were or where you were from. You had to come into the office every single day.
Control, man.
And I fought it, and I'll tell you, for the last 5 years, I never go to the office. I go there once a week. I go there once a week at this point to do invoices, but everything else, I created the entire process around it was to automate the business and to have everything where we could do 100% of it from remote. A perfect example was that my father, when he was, unfortunately, he was a high risk, kind of person. He was not healthy. He was obese. He was diabetic, heart conditions, all this stuff. But he loved his job, and he just loved doing the business. He put that in front of everything else. Where one day, it's like January of 2017, and I got a phone call from a customer. My father was in the hospital with chronic heart failure. 2017, he got a call from this customer, and they had received this very large check from an insurance company that they needed to send to us, to sign it over to us and send it to us. They just needed the paperwork, the invoice. Well, my father was doing everything internally. He was doing everything on QuickBooks. And I said, this is a stupid fucking problem to have. This check is astronomical. This is a stupid fucking problem to have. So switch. Immediately, everything goes online. It's all cloud-based. We automated all the services. Everything was no longer do you do the invoices. That's what we have, the accounting department for.
Right.
They can do that. That was the control thing from the old corporate world. And we started changing over all these processes. And I don't go to the office. I literally will wake up at 3:00 in the morning, just if I can't sleep, and I'll go in my office in my underwear here, and I'll bang out, 20, 30 emails, and I'll hit a report, go these things, review estimates, and then I'll go back to bed, and I'll get back up at 7, 8 o'clock in the morning, work for 4 or 5 hours again, and I don't have to go anywhere.
That's right.
Now, I could literally, to this point, I could still do all the invoices if I wanted to from here. That even went into a bigger effect during the pandemic. It goes back to the entrepreneurial side. Being that my father was high risk, we did shut down the office. As the chief operating officer, I made an operational decision to shut down the office.
Yeah.
It was number one for my father, but number two, to instigate change, to force change within the company, to say, hey, these people don't need to come to the office every day. Yeah. My project managers don't need to come to the office every day. As long as the jobs are running and the notes are getting put in the system and the customers are happy and the vendor invoices are coming in, you don't need to come to the office. And I told him, I said, as long as your job's getting done, I don't care if you're sitting on your couch in your underwear. Just get the job done.
That's our generation, though.
Yeah.
The baby boomers were not like that. It was always, if you're not on time, if you're not early, you're on time. Like they always these cliche things, and it's always clocking in, clocking out. And Gen Xers, raised by baby boomers, tend to be more task oriented. Like, whether it takes me an hour to do this or 4 hours to do this, I should get paid for the same result. Like, we're results based.
Yeah, I have you don't pay me for the service I provide if I do it in 5 minutes or 5 hours.
That's right.
You pay me for the experience and the ability to get it done.
Yeah.
I have AC companies, plumbing companies, guys like that. You know, everybody thinks, oh, well, it only took you 20 minutes to do it.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, because I've been doing this for 20 years. You know, 20 years ago, it would have taken me 3 hours.
Yeah.
But I've been doing it for 20 years, and I can get it done in 30 minutes. Plus, I have, you know, $100,000, $200,000 worth of tools.
Right.
You know, to help it go a lot faster. You know, yeah, I think our generation does look at it and say, what is the best way for me to get this done in the most efficient way possible?
Right.
Sitting in a car on the freeway for 3 hours isn't going to get that done.
No.
Going back to, you made me think of something, going back to this, the accountability. I'm big about verbalizing. People come to me all the time like, shut the fuck up. Why do you do that? And I said, it's not just about me saying something. It's about putting it out to the world, and it makes me accountable for it. If I fail, people will see that.
Yes.
I lost the desire to be afraid to fail. What I do notice, I work out every day. And of course, the first month, 2 months is insane at a gym. People are coming in. But what you don't see from these people is you see them coming in, you see them working out. You don't see them standing at the mirror taking a picture like the person who's been in there for 15, years or 2 years or whatever, posting it on Instagram. You just don't see that because they want that emergency escape route that no one sees, that
right.
trap door that no one sees. I have a cousin, though. I'm very proud of him. Second cousin by the same exact name, lives in Dallas, ironically. He has made himself accountable. He's probably 150 pounds overweight, and he has made himself accountable by putting these pictures out there. I'm very proud of that, but you just don't see that. You know, he's making it to where people, and I think people confuse this. People confuse the putting something out there just for likes versus externalizing something, verbalizing something. We learn, I think they show statistically, you learn more by writing something down than by simply hearing it.
True.
Taking a picture of that and putting it on the internet for everybody to see, whether or not it comes with ridicule or adulation, that's a big step for a lot of people to put themselves out there.
This is an identity shift. When they are putting themselves in photos of working out or doing things that are outside of their norm, they're creating a new identity for themselves. And the reason they don't put the photos is because they haven't adopted that identity yet. So if you identify as someone that works out, or identify as someone that eats healthy, identify as someone that writes books, you're going to start to share the content or be vocal about the things that you're working on. If you identify as someone that's a patriot, for example, or anything that you want to be into, once you adopt that as your identity, you start to show evidence of that. But until it becomes part of your identity, and it can be in your identity like this, you could just decide, hey, I want to be someone that works out. I know that the mirror says otherwise, but I'm going to be someone that's going to work out. So if you can have that awareness and start sharing that immediately and adopt that, it becomes your habit. It becomes your routine. You start to get the results. And then here's the beauty of that. You start to inspire people on that journey. Because let's say that you're the 300-pound dude that's like, man, I want to be a workout guy. I want to be a fitness guy, but I know that it's going to take me a lot of work just to get back to zero.
Well, you didn't get to 300 pounds overnight either.
That's it. But they want that result. And the thing is that the hardest part about being out of shape is that you know how much hard work it's going to take to get back to zero. And zero is like average body weight.
Yeah.
Average body weight, just like where you should be, like without any muscle. That's zero. If you're looking at it on a scale of -100 to 100.
Yeah.
Now, a positive side is when you start to see muscle definition and strength and your powerlifting, and that's so far down the road from just getting back to zero. And I think that most people just really become dissuaded by not even attempting because they realize the work just to get to zero is a lot. And that's unfortunate, but they haven't got that identity, right?
Well, do you think that's kind of like do you think, unfortunately, that's also kind of a result of what we see online of this image? You know, I've got a great friend of mine, guy, had him on the podcast a couple weeks back, telling you he was down in Florida. Mm-hmm. He went to go do bodybuilding, and he's about my size normally. And then when he did bodybuilding, he just looked amazing. He was well-defined and just, ripped muscles everywhere. And then when he stops, he develops this sense of body dysmorphia because he's still seeing all these other people. He got done. He was like, I did it. I don't want to do it anymore. It was an experience. That was it.
Yeah.
Well, now he's sitting there beating the shit out of himself because he doesn't look that way. But he's seeing online, he's seeing all these other people. Do you think that a lot of that comes from the unfortunate side of social media?
Dude, you and I probably both know several people who have competed in bodybuilding just because we're in that scene, right? First of all, looking at those photos, they look like an apple fritter because they're brown. They look like they were spray painted brown, like this wall.
Yeah.
So automatic, like right away, just the skin color is not even realistic. Like most people, like their mom wouldn't even recognize them.
It's
right?
a ridiculous, it's an insane spray tan. Yeah.
So knowing that, it's like, okay, you're already starting out with like fake skin color. Not even close. It's not an enhancement. It's like, no, you look like an apple fritter because it's like kind of ripped, you know, like the little people that don't know what an apple fritter is, go Google that. It's a donut, but it's brown and it's lumpy. It's like it almost looks like muscle. Right?
Yeah.
So you can't maintain that lifestyle. I mean, they're doing all kinds of fasting and supplementation and like exercising and dehydration and all these different things, like just to look like that for one show, you know?
And they're only out there for 10, 15 minutes.
And you can't sustain that. And if you think that that's the best you've ever been, like I achieved my peak status, because that's what they really believe. And they, for a large part, physically, they think that that's the perfect body that they've always dreamed of, and they achieve that. But then what happens when you're slapped with reality and you realize that I can't maintain this? This is not even realistic. This is like, it was for show, right? And it was. But I think if you go into it understanding, like, I just want to do it, like if it's a challenge, I just want to do it. And I know that that's not realistic, but I just want to do it. That's a whole different perspective than really going all in and believing that that's the goal and I'm going to get there and I'm going to be the one that keeps it and nobody else can do this. And, you know, we see the people that compete and they're like they're bulked out in the winter because there's no shows going on, and they kind of look like obese but strong. And then they start cutting down about this time of year and they're competing and they're doing the mirror poses, and that's a tough lifestyle, man. Like the diets and everything.
I've got a guy, he's a buddy of mine, he's coming on next week. And his big thing is he's open about the drug side of things.
Yeah.
We're not talking about supplements, regular stuff that you can go buy at the nutrition shop.
No, steroids.
He's very open about that, and he talks about that and what it does, not necessarily the emotional side and all those other things, but what it does to your body when you get ready to go compete.
Yeah.
And I mean, you're fried. When you said apple fritter, that's exactly where it hit. But even the black guys, when they're going out and they're putting on this insane spray tan where that's not their natural color.
I didn't know that.
Oh yeah.
Oh wow.
Oh yeah. I've got a couple black friends that are out there that do the bodybuilding, and they still go get spray tans. They just put a little more oil on. But they'll still get some spray tans and things like that. And it really isn't insane, but I find that we create as a society this image of what is perfect. And so I like lifting. I'm an athlete. I was an athlete when I was young. I was an athlete when I was older. I enjoy the competitive nature of it, but now it's for myself.
Yeah.
It's purely for me. With the number one intention is so I can eat what I want. And for me, food at this point is purely fuel. But I want to be able to eat whatever I want because psychologically, I still want to eat that big ass steak. I still want to eat that pizza. I still want to have that burger or whatever. But I don't want to have to fear that, oh my God, I'm going to put on 2 pounds because I eat this. I work out so that I can eat it, so I can maintain that happiness. And I feel like we put ourselves as a society into this cycle of what other people think.
Always.
Goes back to the question I asked, what's your idea of financial success? To a lot of people, I think that could mean a lot of things. From a true, if we want to get into the world of being able to live your life uninhibited, there is a standard for that. There's a dollar amount applied to that.
Yeah.
But if again, if I take the same thing for me is I don't have a goal to go work out. The guy who's going to the gym with the specific intention of competing is going to, might be the guy that says, I'm not going to be happy unless I have $5 million in the bank, versus someone like me may go in there and say, I'm happy just being in the gym and being, again, going back to the prison side of things.
Yeah.
You're doing push-ups with books on your back,
Right.
just for added weight. Now I have like, $12 million worth of machines to go work out on, but to someone who I guess approaches it from that perspective, is they've created their own version of happiness, say at $50,000, because they're able to pay their rent and they have a car that they can rely on, and they can still go out to eat from time to time. We know with inflation, that's a lot fucking harder today.
Yeah.
Side note, I saw this thing that showed, it made me think of this inflation, that if you take right now, if we stayed at the consistent inflation rate that we're at right now for the next, like, I think 20 years, which may or may not happen, but say we stayed there right now with the growth that we're having in the inflation, that $1,000 today buys you $1,000 worth of whatever. If you start that at the zero, something like 20 years from now, it's going to be able to buy you something like $480 to today's, in the equivalent in today's money. I think that's the most insane thing that we're experiencing right now in our society.
It's realistic. I mean, I'm a car guy, and sometimes we see these old advertisements for magazines from the 1960s and 70s.
Yeah.
And you see these muscle cars like the Hemi Cudas and the 69 Camaros and the Corvettes, and it shows the pricing because it's like a dealer ad. And like a Hemi Cuda, like in 1971, was $4,800. And nowadays, that same car, because it's collectible, obviously, they're $700,000 to $1 million. But even at $4,800, that seems pretty low, and that was only 1971. I was born in 72.
Yeah. So I actually had this conversation with a buddy of mine the other day. My first vehicle that I owned myself was a 95 Bronco, black on black Bronco, big one, and had a removable hardtop. I bought it from my grandfather. I paid him $1,500 for that vehicle back in 2002, 2003. That's what I bought it for. That same exact vehicle today, if I did absolutely nothing to it whatsoever and had just sat in my garage, is worth over $50,000.
Yep.
And if I had spent a little bit of money into it, it's worth over $100,000.
Yeah.
But I think that's a little bit... I think what we're having, unfortunately, I think what we're experiencing right now is kind of a little bit beyond appreciation of the value of something, where something grows in value because there's less and less of them.
Yeah.
I think we have the other side of it, where we're experiencing an inflation because there's more and more and more of the dollars in the market. That to me is an insane thing, where there's more money flowing around statistically now, but it's worth less.
True.
And that hurts. That sucks. Because I remember when I was broke and I had to make the decision with the $5 in my bank account, whether I was going to put gas in my truck or go buy a gallon of milk for my kids. Like, that's tough. I couldn't imagine what that would be like today with the way things are going. It's got to be hard for people.
Yeah, we've been there. There was a time that I lived off of Beltway 8, which is a tollway here in Houston. I don't know why I picked that apartment, but it was just what I could afford at the time. And I was really broke at the time. I was waiting tables and in between jobs and had a newborn son. And
Greenspoint?
No, this was Southside,
okay.
Hobby Airport area.
Right.
But the thing is that there was times that I didn't even have enough money to go pay a toll just to go drive my car. I'd search the couch cushions literally just to see if I had enough change to throw in those meters when they had them back then. And I remember looking at gas prices and, like bottles of water, right? It's you mentioned this a little bit earlier about paying attention to gas prices and things like that. And to be honest, I haven't looked at gas prices in probably 20 years. I'm aware of the range because you see it on your feed and people talking about it.
Mm-hmm.
But your definition of success, you asked me the financial success to me is different than financial success. Success is happiness. What does it take to make you happy? And I like the idea that you had that you can go buy a grocery store and not worry about your debit card crashing because you don't have credit, right? You're bad credit a lot of times. So I had that.
Mm-hmm.
So you had to use it with debit card, man. I just hope this thing goes through. And not being able to pay for tolls and looking really at gas prices and driving a couple blocks past that gas station just to go to the one that's 10 cents a gallon less, right? I grew up with a mom that always clipped coupons. Like she was an extreme saver, right? So once you get to a level where all your necessary needs are met and you don't have to look at that stuff anymore and you don't have to log into your bank account every day to see the drafts or your overdrafts, that's a level of comfort and happiness that you may understand that it doesn't mean that you need to go buy a $500,000 house. You don't need to go buy a fancier car. Like I'm okay being a minimalist. I have a big house and I have a bunch of cars, but that's not what made me happy.
Right.
You know, I've always been a happy person. So I like that you said that you stop paying attention to the little things. Like, yeah, gas price is expensive in California right now. It's like $6 a gallon.
God,
I think here in Houston it's in the mid $3 range, and somewhere else it's $5. Like it's between 3 and 6 in this country, right? And either way, you need gas.
Yeah.
Like it's not, if you got to drive or you got to commute, you're gonna have to pay for it anyway. So there's no real sense in bitching about it because it is what it is.
Yeah.
You can't change it. Complaining is not going to change the outcome. So you need to be more focused on what you can do in your life to not have to worry about that anymore. What are the skills that you need to go learn, or the people that you need to go collaborate and network with, or the extra job that you may have to go unfortunately pick up? Are you willing to do what it takes? And the answer is most people is no. They're not willing to do what it takes. I mean, I've had clients that maybe they're struggling financially to get their company off the ground. And I was like, well, why don't you just go get another job for now to help pay? Well, I don't want a job. It's like ego. I want to be a business owner. I want to be an entrepreneur. It's like, let me tell you about my business, okay? The first company that I built that I sold for millions, I started back when I was broke and I didn't have the money in the cushions. Newborn, depressed for 2 years because I had a bad relationship with someone I was not in love with. I was in between engineering jobs because it was an industry downturn in oil and gas. I had to live off of a credit card for 6 months to pay for her apartment, my apartment, and all of our necessary things. That put me in severe debt. When I finally did get another job, it was making about a third less than I was originally making. So that wasn't enough to catch up or catch my breath. So I actually put on my apron and I was actually waiting tables 7 nights a week at a restaurant I was managing and rating tables at when I was in school. And so I did that for 2 years. Engineering degree, engineering salary, and waiting tables 7 nights a week. And then on Saturdays, I would go work at a mechanic shop until lunchtime. And then I would go to the restaurant for the evening because I made more money as a waiter. So when people hear that, they go, man, that had to suck. Yeah, it sucked. I was in a depressive state, a newborn, a fucked up relationship, and working 3 jobs. But I still started the company. So what's your excuse, right? Like, what is your excuse? Like, oh shit, they have no excuse at that point because they're not really willing to do what it takes. Because in every part of my life, I've always looked at it and I said, hey, Tony, are you where you want to be? And if the answer is no, then the next question should logically be, well, what am I willing to do, or what actions do I need to take to go move that direction? Well, if that meant going to school or networking with this person that has the answers that can make things work out for me, or picking up an extra job or a third job, like what is the action that I have to go take to go be that person I need to be or be where I want to be? And those aren't easy decisions, but the decisions are they're pretty clear. Like the solutions are pretty clear, but they're not easy to do, right? And I think that most people hope and pray that they can achieve it or someone's going to discover them. They're always waiting, like reacting to the world rather than just going out there and making something of it or just teaching themselves a new skill or starting something, just doing something. And dude, realize this if you're listening or watching this, is that no matter what your current situation is right now, like good or bad, realize that your current situation, whether you choose to accept it or not, is irrelevant because it's your fault. It's based on decisions you made years ago, right? So if you can fully accept and take accountability that your current situation is based on decisions you made years ago, that may offend you. It may piss you off. It may, if you're winning, you're like, fuck yeah, like hell yeah, it's all my fault. Yeah, I own this. Like it's all the same. You have to take the accountability. But let's say that you're on the negative side of that or the neutral side of that. Knowing that your decisions years ago led to today, that should make you a little bit excited right now, because it shows that you actually have control of your future. And the decisions you make today, even if it's the food on the end of your fork, or if you skip the gym today, or didn't do your follow-ups on the call, or didn't ask for that raise, or go look for another job, or get some more education, or find a mentor, or anything that you wanted to change in your life for the better, being a better husband, a better wife, right? You get to make those decisions today, knowing that you control the output, that in a few years of making those proper decisions, you will be in a different place in your life based on your own actions done today. So yeah, you may have a fucked up situation right now. And I remember being in that situation, but I never like put the blame on other people. And I just said, you know what I need to do? I just need to put my head down, get to fucking work, and keep working towards that light that's somewhere that's out there. And eventually that little spark starts to show up in the distance, and then it gets brighter and brighter, and you kind of get to the end of the tunnel and you're in the bright light again. So I just wish more people would actually go do the work instead of just complaining about their situation.
Well, you made me think of something here, and this has kind of been popularized by Joe Rogan. It's been around, but it's been around for a little while. Good times create soft men.
Yes.
Soft men create hard times. Hard times create hard men. Hard men create good times.
Correct.
We tend to think of that as a holistic thing, as an approach to the entire environment, that it's not independent of you and I, that it's all of us collectively. And it is, but it is also us individually. You were in hard times, and it created a hard man.
Yeah.
Well, hard men don't quit. Hard men are willing to suffer and put things for the future in front of their immediate needs. I see that every day. I see that with people. I see that with my friends, unfortunately, where it's the sacrifice that people aren't willing to make. And again, I go back to this, and it's this weird thought. How, I know social media is a big thing, obviously a big driver in a lot of that stuff. But I wonder what the last 2 years have done to people. Not only as a collective group, because we can obviously see it's made a lot of people a bunch of fucking assholes, but individually in their own lives. I'm kind of curious as to what that's done. Have you seen that where individually, where you're seeing less and less hard people that are softened, that you're having to harden up?
It goes both ways. There's, for everybody that's losing money, there's definitely people making money. The groups that I tend to run with, we've made more money in the last 2 years. And some people may be shocked by hearing that. But the thing is that when you set yourself up for opportunity and you position yourself, you realize that there's a game being played here, and there's winners and losers. And for every winner, there's a loser. And for every loser, there's a winner. So business owners, the people that I run with, they've made record sales, made record profits in the last 2 years. Because they're aware that whenever there's a financial crisis or a downturn or a correction or whatever you want to call it, you got to be on the right side of that. And that takes knowledge. That takes a little bit of skill and setting yourself up for those opportunities. Like, you know, people talk about 2008, 2009, the real estate and the mortgage crash. A lot of people became extremely wealthy if they knew what to do in that time. They were sitting on a lot of liquidity and a lot of cash, and prices went down. The cash buyers had a lot of properties that they could have picked up at a really discounted rate because nobody was getting mortgages at that time. And if people wanted to sell their house, they just had to take a bid and take the price and go run with it.
Yeah.
Right?
Whatever they can get.
So that's positioning yourself and ready for that, because when times are good, you can make money, but everybody's kind of on that same scale, because even at the highest level and the lowest level, we're kind of on that same trajectory. We're kind of just slowly increasing.
Yeah.
But when there's a correction, like we talk about stock markets and things like that correcting, there's people waiting. They're just sitting on cash reserves, waiting for some kind of correction, because they know that this is where the big steps come in. Like we can do the moderate growth in a good time and everybody's happy, and that's great. But these correction times, like the last 2 years, are when people make big jumps in wealth.
Well, yeah, I think the market we're in right now, people are obviously there is a social concern to where you have a lot of large corporations coming in and buying an absurd amount of houses.
Yeah.
And they're driving the prices through the roof because you're creating these massive bidding wars. I mean, guy right up the street literally put his house on the market and got 60 over in 3 days.
Yeah.
Coming in from an institutional purchaser.
Yep.
That creates a social issue where obviously it becomes more and more difficult for people to buy. But strictly from a business standpoint, you can't. I mean, that's pure capitalism. Luck is not. Luck doesn't exist. No. Luck is capitalizing on experience and opportunity. And you have, and I see that. I see both sides of it. I'm of the mindset that, of course, there is a social impact to a lot of that stuff.
Yes.
To huge capital gains off of downsides. The top 5 most wealthiest men in the world increased their net holdings by like $200 billion or $300 billion over the past couple. Jeff Bezos, Elon Musk. They had created an environment that people needed and that people sustained on. Their prices didn't go up. Their services didn't alter, didn't change. But they were in a market where they could capitalize on that stuff. Like I said, there is the social side of things that you understand, that people see, where cost of housing is going up. It's harder for people in a certain area that can't come in and purchase a house for $60,000 over market or $100,000 over market to go buy. Yeah. Rent prices do increase. But I refuse to believe that significant increase in the capital gain does not outweigh and offset the social issue that's caused out there.
Oh, yeah.
Because people like you, people like your friends, me, my friends, when we have more success, we do more.
Right.
We are purchasing more. We're putting more money back into the economy.
We donate more.
Yeah, absolutely. My donations have increased tenfold.
Oh yeah.
That's you put that out there. You try to do those services. Sometimes you do things pro bono. Sometimes you have the ability to say, look, I'll do this for free because I can. I see that, and I've had these discussions with many people, and they're social warriors, SJWs, and some of those people are fucking assholes. It's just they're beyond assholes. But there's a valid idea there.
Yeah.
I wouldn't say that it's a valid point. It's a valid idea. When you are talking with your clients, do they struggle with? Have you had to deal with anybody that's struggled with their morals versus capitalism?
No, because I don't attract that type. I think that there's definitely people out there that are in an influence space, or authors or speakers or coaches that put out that vibe about skating, the ethical, the boundaries and the risking things. And that's not me. I just do the right thing.
To go to that, have you dealt with any companies? I have to deal with large corporations all the time.
Oh, yeah.
And they're constantly pushing, social issues as an agenda, stuff like that. I would imagine that you probably grow into some people that
I see it. I definitely see it. There's ethical challenges with all humans, right? We all have their vices. We have things that maybe we don't like to disclose and things like that.
Mm-hmm.
I've seen good people get corrupted in the last few years, maybe by the last 2 years of what we've seen in the pandemic. I've seen people that had good intentions when they started out with their companies, or maybe their speaking business or things like that. And they start to align with people that are more opportunists and trying to find a quick way to get cash or the quickest way to pump up cash because they don't realize that this is a long game. I'm of the belief that if you burn your integrity, if you burn your reputation, it haunts you forever. You can actually recover financially, but if you're a shithead or a dirtbag, or you lose your core values and your ethics, that's going to follow you for the rest of your life, and that determines if you're going to sleep well at night. You know, so having all the money in the world doesn't matter if you're a dirtbag. But I start to see these people just looking at other people that they perceive have it all figured out money-wise, but we all know there's a lot of fraud, especially like in Instagram nowadays. And they align with them, or they join their program, or they go do the things with them, and you just start to see them deteriorate on the integrity level because then they're always pitching and they're always asking, and people that have money don't really go around begging other people for money. It's just it's how are you telling me you got an 8-figure business and you're super successful and you got to rent a Rolls Royce, but then you're always asking to sell something for $69 or $9.97 like every time you open your mouth on your social media? It's like,
Yeah.
that doesn't line up.
I actually had a very similar conversation with a buddy of ours. So I would say 90% of my friends are business owners or second generation in a business. And one of our friends, he passed up on an opportunity to buy a small business in the Woodlands. And one of our other buddies, he jumped right on it. He's like, no, this is a great thing. And the other guy's kind of kicking himself.
Was it a good opportunity?
Absolutely.
Oh, wow.
Shout out to Sterling Monument right there off I-45, just north of Rayford Road. They came to me, kind of a side thing.
Yeah.
He came to me. My buddy came to me that ended up buying the business. And he said, what do you think about this? And he showed me the balance sheet, and he showed me a lot of the information. And I looked right at it. I said, I don't need to see the rest of this stuff. I said, is there product? He says, yes. I said, you realize that right now death is the topic of the day. It's out there. And I said, but it's not new. There are two certainties in life, death and taxes.
That's right.
I said, this is a solid business. You're literally going to have people walking in your door.
We have guaranteed for customers
every day. Yeah, people are gonna die.
There's no shortage of it.
Yeah, let's not be cold about it. We don't have to be cold, but people are gonna die. People have been dying for thousands and thousands of years.
We're all gonna die. Everybody watching, everybody listening, we're all gonna die.
Unless Jeff Bezos. Did you see that article about Jeff Bezos?
No.
He's gonna start investing a majority of his wealth into stopping death.
Okay.
I saw this. It was buddy of ours sent it. It was on Reddit, which by the way is a very toxic place. But yeah, Jeff Bezos is going to do this.
Okay.
But back up to the other guy that did not buy the business, and he won't say it, but in a way he is kind of kicking himself.
Yeah.
Because the guy who bought the business is his best friend.
So he gets to see the updates.
Absolutely. He sees it. He knows that, if he doesn't want to, he doesn't have to go into the office. He wears a pair of shorts and a T-shirt every single day, and he's, if he wants, he works 3 hours. If he wants, he works 8 hours.
Right.
Just how it goes. Well, he sent me this prospectus. I guess I don't know the name of the website, and I certainly don't want to publicize it, but there's this website where basically you can go and buy online businesses. And he sent me this link, and it was a company that claims to have been in business for 3 months, and they created a education and design course for NFTs, and it's all online, and says it's 100% profit because they have generated over the period of time 180 subscribers at an average of like $70 per month, and or $70 per purchase, whatever, showing they made an average of $40,000 or $4,000 a month.
Got it.
Why is he selling it? If it's pure profit, why is he selling it?
Especially that soon.
Yeah, 3 months into it. And what they don't explain, which I had to say to him, I said, do you know anything about NFTs? I said, do you know much about crypto? I mean, of course, everybody's talking about Robinhood and Bitcoin and stuff like that. But I said, if you don't know how to program and you don't know how to create NFTs and you don't know the ins and outs of crypto, I said, what happens when the information in this course is outdated?
That's right.
You're going to have to recreate it. I said, more than likely, the reason he is selling it right now, he didn't tell you how much he paid. The guy didn't say that he wrote the course. He didn't tell you how much he paid for that course. If you have to redo that and you buy it for, and he was selling it at like $15,000.
Oh, that's really low. Because I'm thinking, was that 48,000 a year? Even if you get a 3 multiple, 150 grand.
Yeah. Actually, I'm going to back that up. He had a reserve set on it at $4,800. And I said, why are you selling it for literally one multiple, not even one for
month,
even
one
of
month,
one month? So I said, I had to tell him, I said, look, I said, I think this is a scam.
Yeah.
And I said, man, this is very, this, you see it all the time. You see it right now in this market, in this economy, which is insane to me.
Yeah.
Where there is a legitimate way for so many people to make money right now.
Mm-hmm.
But that goes back to this social side of things where there are scavengers out there. There are
Definitely.
People that have zero consideration for the other side of it.
Absolutely. I mean, I get fake Instagram accounts made of mine every month.
Really?
They're always trying to sell crypto.
Really?
Always.
Yeah.
I think they're bots, though. I mean, because a lot of my friends in the space, it follows a pattern. What it does is it downloads about 30 photos from your current page.
Mm-hmm.
It creates a username that's similar to yours. It uses your name,
Mm-hmm.
puts all your links in there, and what it does is it automatically follows all of the people that follow you.
Mm-hmm.
So when they see in their notifications, hey, Tony followed me, they always follow back. They don't think about it, right? They think, oh, maybe he created a new account, or maybe the other one got shadow banned or whatever, and they don't even think, because they go, oh, yeah, those are all his pictures. Like, I get it. And then the DMs automatically start. Hey, how you doing? Haven't heard from you in a while. And my followers, I like to teach them about crypto, and like I just want to make sure that everybody's invested in that. And I've had people sending me the screenshots, and it's the same messages, so I know it's automated, right? So I think that there's some botware out there that can grab the 30 photos, create the account, create the username, create the automatic follow requests for all the people that follow you.
Mm-hmm.
And then automate it on the DMs. Because you think about it, it's just like it happens so frequently, and a lot of my friends have the exact same issue. Like, it's like, and Instagram doesn't do shit about it.
No.
Like, these times, I'll have some fake accounts that'll last 3 months of me, and they keep getting reported, but
No, they won't take it down.
They don't care, man.
Thank God I haven't had that yet. I'm not important enough, so no one gives a shit about me. I see it from a lot of females.
Oh yeah.
Girls, good-looking women.
Oh, catfishing you.
Yeah, and this thing will come up, and I'm already friends with the female, and it's like you see that, and it's like, well, yeah, I'm not important enough for anybody to do that. So good for you, good for you having that. I actually had this the other day. It was just the night before we went to Utah. I'm friends with a girl who works in one of my friends' offices, and I get this message. I've never spoken to her online before. It's directly through our relationship with her boss. So she sends me, I get this message about, hey, I got, you should, I just used this bank transfer thing. You should really try it. It's great.
Yeah.
And I literally, I literally screenshot and I'd sent it to her boss, and I had already messaged this person. I said, well, that's really strange. I said, I'm actually, semi close with this individual. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to message her in real life, let her know. And immediate comes back, says, I've not been hacked, Jason. And I'm like, it's a pretty good bot, or somebody sitting there doing it.
Yeah.
But I contacted her boss, and she was like, yes. She's like, I just got the same exact message.
Yeah. It used
Same
to piss
exact
me
thing.
off. It used to piss me off when people would make these clone accounts, but the first one will piss you off, but then you realize that it's automated and it's inevitable.
Yeah.
I mean, anytime you start to do things where people start to take notice of you, it's just going to happen. I mean, everybody gets them nowadays.
I put, I guess, too much stupid shit on the internet.
I think it's when you get to a certain amount of followers, because they know that they can automate and follow all those people, then they'll get a lot of returns and they get a lot of DMs.
See, I have about 15,000 on Instagram.
Well, then you should have them.
But thank God, not yet.
I mean,
maybe I should feel bad about myself. I don't. They don't like it. They don't like me enough. But You brought up shadow banning.
Mm-hmm.
Have you experienced this?
Yeah.
What'd you post that caused you to get it? Was it political stuff or COVID related stuff?
COVID related.
Yeah.
Yeah, you have to be creative the way you talk about COVID things or masks, or you just misspell words, but you can't misspell them commonly. Like a lot of people will write COVID or COVID, but it's artificial intelligence.
They're learning.
Artificial intelligence can look at something that's purposely misspelled when the rest of the paragraph is spelled correctly. Why is this word like? Does that fit our database of misspellings for COVID, right? And it's an artificial intelligence. It learns, like, that seems like it's COVID.
Yeah.
And so what they'll do is they reduce your algorithm. Here's the funny thing. A lot of people that hang out on Facebook and Instagram and these websites, they think there's some nerd in Silicon Valley reviewing all of our posts and like manually going, oh, that one's Republican. Like, no, like they think it's a person.
Right.
So that you see them make this post or are angry at Mark Zuckerberg and their censorship, but it's artificial intelligence doing all this.
Mm-hmm.
So you just have to outsmart the artificial intelligence. And some people think, well, I could just do videos, but no, because when you upload a video, it scans the vocals. It understands like what words you're using, so it can, like you see the people that we can create the closed captioning and things like that, so it knows the words that are in that video.
When I upload these videos to YouTube, it goes through the video uploads, and that takes like 20 minutes.
Yep.
And there's like a 45-minute processing period where it's scanning the entire thing.
That's right. For music, for words.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Yeah, you get the check mark at the very end to say it was done.
Yep.
It's done. No warnings, no demonetization,
Yep.
in there, stuff like that. Well, I posted, I'm not anti-mask. I'm not anti-vaccination. I'm pro fucking choice.
Yeah.
My body, my choice kind of went out the window apparently for a lot of people over the last 24 months.
Yeah.
Where they screamed and screamed and screamed about it over the last 30 years, but now it's gone completely out the window for other purposes.
Yeah.
But I made a post. I got on a plane, and it's the first time I've heard this. The first time I'd heard this. Of course, you get on a plane. I've been on like 15 planes over the past 2 years, and I hear, I would hear federal regulation to wear a mask. I can deal with that. I can deal with federal regulation. Well, I got on this plane, and the flight attendant said, it is federal law to wear a mask.
It's not a law.
It's not a law. It's a mandate that the airlines choose to observe.
That's right.
It is not a law. And I looked it up.
There's no law.
There is no law. A federal law is a lot different than a mandate. And people don't understand. A law requires a consensus of government. It requires a vote in Congress. It's never been voted on.
Yeah.
It was an executive order. And the airlines have chosen to abide by it.
Yes.
Totally fine. They're a private entity. They can make that choice.
They're just covering their ass.
Right. Liabilities, whatever. If you make everybody do it, less fights on the plane.
That's right.
Okay. But I typed up, again, this is my I guess, false sense of importance. So what I'll do is I don't use Twitter or Getter or any of these other apps for social growth or anything like that. I use them because I like the format of when you type it out. And then I screenshot, after I type it and post it, I screenshot it and I put it on a white background. And I make it a square. Sometimes I post on Instagram or just put in a story. I posted it to my Instagram. And all it said was that this is misinformation.
Right.
That is the idea of misinformation, to tell me that something is a law when it's not a law. That's lying to hundreds of people all at once.
Right.
It's not a law. Say federal regulation, fine. Totally fine with that.
Yep.
Don't say it's law. Well, I made the post. Instagram, anything I put on my story usually will get between 130 and 300 views of any story. Facebook will get anywhere between 250 and 800, just depending on what is. Am I half naked in the gym? Depending. I posted that, and I was getting 30 to 40 views.
10%.
Of my stories. And I watched it while I was in Florida.
Yeah.
And I was like, ooh, that's strange. Because I would put up some stuff like some really good, like cool pictures from Florida that were like, I'm a Miami Hurricane. So I spent a day and I went down there to the university, and this is the first time I've been down there since they put the big U in the middle of the courtyard by the lake and all this stuff. Well, I post a picture of that. 10 people see it.
Well, now they know that you were posting Republican propaganda and you're in Ron DeSantis's backyard.
Yeah.
I mean, are you kidding me?
Yeah.
Shit.
Well, I went in, and after I got home, I ran a test. It's like A/B testing on this. Yeah. I ran a test. I deleted that post. I deleted off both Facebook and Instagram. And I swear, this is no joke. I put something on my story 30 seconds later after I deleted that post.
Yeah.
Within 12 hours, it had 130 views.
Back to normal.
Yeah. And
it's true though. I mean, it is true.
I had never experienced it.
I mean, anytime somebody posts something and it says like, for COVID-19, like whatever trigger is like putting the little extra stuff, or like Snopes says this or fact check that, you can guarantee they're going to minimize the amount of people that see that.
So I was listening to, do you ever listen to like Lex Friedman? So I listened to his podcast with Mark Zuckerberg.
I haven't listened to it yet.
Apparently they were in there for 6 hours talking.
Oh shit.
But they cut it down to about 2. And they got into that conversation where it felt like Lex Friedman says, you only have a complaint coming from one set of people, primarily conservatives, saying that they feel like they're being censored.
And it's true though.
Yeah, it absolutely is. Of course, Mark, he's political, so immediately says, well, yeah, but there's always a group out there too that's saying not enough is being done. However, what you're boiling it down to is freedom of speech. And I did have this conversation with somebody, and we do have to realize this. If you think about it from this perspective, my ability to say something is not hindered.
Correct.
My rights don't start where yours stop; they overlap. I can say something to you that you don't like. I have that right.
Right.
As you have the right to say something back to me. Where that stops, more or less, is when we choose to use someone else's platform.
Correct.
To publish that. Now they have the right to also their corporate freedom of speech to kind of moderate some of that stuff.
I agree with that.
However, if you're talking about stuff that is socially relevant, politically relevant, medically relevant, and you're not speaking to a fringe group, you're speaking to a large portion of America. If we look at the numbers from the election, call it 50-50 if you want, but there was still 50% of America that believed one way, that was saying, hey, look, we're being censored over here.
Yeah.
And the other side wasn't claiming that at all. They weren't claiming censorship one bit.
No, they were actually laughing about it.
Yeah.
Because they were on the winning side of that.
Absolutely. They fortified the election.
Yeah.
That kind of stuff.
So, the First Amendment thing, freedom of speech, it does not apply on platforms that you don't own. Freedom of speech is really simple if you go read it. I mean, I would encourage anybody watching this to go educate themselves on what it is. It just means that you can walk out in a public square and yell about fuck Joe Biden or fuck Trump, whatever side you want to talk about, and black Suburbans are not going to come pick you up and haul you off and make you disappear. That's all it is. It protects the government from retaliating against you for saying something. Now, there's definitely consequences about saying what you want, freedom of speech. I mean, we've seen people get fired and people get punched in the face. Like, there's consequences, and you have to be able to own the consequences for the things that you say and do in public.
Yes.
Freedom of speech, First Amendment doesn't protect you from that. It just protects you from the government. And we can't even really be sure that exists because, people like Hillary exist.
Well, yeah. Well, I told him, I did say this to somebody the other day. Freedom of speech is absolute, but it comes with consequences.
Always.
Good or bad. Yes. Again, we could be sitting here having a civil conversation. I say something to you, you punch me in the face. Did I deserve it? Well, not in my opinion, but maybe in yours. Now, granted, that's not freedom of speech, that's assault,
Yeah.
but it does come with consequences. And a lot of people, what has felt like, we go back to the social media side and how important it is in everybody's lives to appear this way, appear that way. I have personally given up on trying to be anything than authentically me. Discussing prison, having tattoos down to my wrist, running a business.
Yeah. It's easier.
Yeah, it's freeing.
Freeing for sure.
But there's a lot of people that they want that emergency exit door that no one else sees. So they keep a lot of that in. Psychologically, we have social media platforms that are important to people. They want to put stuff out there.
Right.
But they don't want to have it taken away. So they choose not to say certain things.
I've actually got relevant experience in this situation because I created 2 automotive forums, LS1 Tech and performancetrucks.net. LS1 Tech, over 300,000 members. Performance Trucks, 280,000 registered members, so over 500,000 total people. And you can imagine car guys that like to race, the bravado, the ego, the shit-talking, keyboard grenade-tossing people. I mean, you can imagine, like, that's what guys do, right? We talk shit, right? We race each other, call each other slow, and call each other names, and it's just, that's what we do. But our website was such a valuable resource for them for educational reasons, how to make the car go faster, how to make and modify, how to buy parts, how to have communication with friends that you've met through the website. And, you know, we had over 100,000 unique visitors per day on this website before I sold it. And to think about that is like, it's like a virtual bar that I built that everybody hangs out there. They keep coming back. They spend over an hour a day just hanging out and talking and reading about cars, things they enjoy, right? Sure. So one of our rules was that we would allow you to do a little friendly trash talking, but if it became violent, if you're like, well, I'm going to kick your ass, like if it became physical threats, we would give people timeouts or ban them, and repeat offenders, we would IP ban them so they just wouldn't be able to log in again. And some people got really offended by that. They say, oh, First Amendment, because again, like the people seeing it on Facebook are like, no, I actually own this website. It's like my virtual house. And if you came in my front door and started shouting obscenities and like threatening me, I would kick your ass out the door. Like, why would I allow you in my virtual house if it's the same thing as I own this? This is mine, right? So when you have that perspective, you realize that the value of using that social media platform outweighs your need to go vent and do a bunch of showing your ass, essentially. You realize, like, man, all my friends are here and I'm learning some cool things, and I like wasting time maybe when I'm sitting on the crapper, right? Whatever your value is. And if I get banned or shadow banned, then all of a sudden I don't enjoy this, and that sucks. I want to have access, right? Maybe you run businesses through there. So you have to put aside your ego and realize, like, this is their platform. It's literally their ball and their court. And if I don't choose to play by their rules, they can do things to my account that I can't access. And that sucks when you're on the wrong side of that. But it always goes back to the owner of the website. So your freedom of speech doesn't mean shit on a personally owned or even a publicly traded website. So if you don't like it, go create your own, or go to another one that allows what you do, right? There's plenty of the choices out there.
Reddit.
Yeah.
You can go there and be an asshole.
Twitter's even an asshole fest. You know, it's a flaming dumpster fire. You know, so
I was going to ask, if we're talking about the same thing, Trump doesn't have a Twitter account, but Vladimir Putin does.
Yeah, and Taliban does.
Yeah.
You know, well, it's pretty clear their agenda, the Silicon Valley, the big tech. Yeah, obviously they're leftist progressive and they protect their ideals because there's a lot of things that go on beyond the depth of just the logo of the company. A lot of them are being invested in heavily by people on that side, like the George Soros and things like that of the world. So they're being really manipulated as well. Like Zuckerberg is just a puppet. It's not all his decisions. He's got a lot of things going on with the FBI and the CIA that he's helping everybody with this information. And they probably know a lot of stuff about him that he doesn't want to get out.
Sure.
So they're like, hey, we need you to bend this narrative a little bit to favor us, and we'll keep you in good graces.
Yeah.
You know, so it's...
Well, you know, it goes to the other side of this, and is to say, I love the word fuck. It can be anything possible. It's a noun, it's an adjective, it's a verb, it's everything. It's so great.
Is it your pronoun?
Yeah. Fucking asshole is generally what I identify as. But I actually, in theory, a company like Facebook, a company like Instagram, they say, okay, well, this word is degrading our society. It's making us worse. It's making us angry. It's making us aggressive. We need to eliminate it.
And they do.
They could, in theory, eliminate it from the human language in a matter of a year. By, if you have the word in your post, it starts out with a warning. Then eventually the post altogether is not allowed to be published. It gets removed. And the next thing you know, you never see it online ever again. It's never published. It's never written, because the freedom of speech does apply even to offensive speech. But they could eliminate it on that side completely to where it's just not out there to everybody. Where this comes from, where the freedom of speech, even offensive speech, is legal or is protected. I wear a hat that says, it's from a clothing company called The Drive Clothing. Guy was here in Houston, started this great clothing company. And the hat says, fuck off. And I wear it everywhere. Now, I was asked to remove it while I was at the gym. I used to wear it every day when I was at the gym. They asked me to remove it. Well, that's their right.
You're at the wrong gym.
Well, you're right. I was not very happy about it. And what was even worse is there had been a fight at the gym like 10 minutes prior to.
Well, as long as they don't say fuck while they're fighting. As long as they don't do that, we're good. Right?
They were screaming at each other. It was literally an Indian guy and I want to say, I believe his name's Muhammad. I've talked to him before, huge bodybuilder. I want to say he's from either Lebanon or Syria or something like that. Anyway, they got into it. And they were screaming at each other at the top of their lungs, both big guys, throwing weights at each other, calling each other names, just never physically touched each other.
I hope no feelings got hurt.
Oh, they're the biggest guys. Their feelings got hurt. Biggest ones.
You're taking up the mirror, bro.
Yeah.
Taking up the mirror.
It's literally what it was. They were arguing about, one of them was standing close to the other one while he was in the mirror in front of the dumbbells. I was just laughing my butt off when I saw it, but
you should have videoed it.
Yeah. But it goes back to, actually, there's a Supreme Court ruling where during I believe it was in the 70s, there was the Republican National Convention was being held in Dallas. And this guy goes up on the steps of the convention house, wherever they're at, and he starts to burn an American flag. Now, I'm not happy about that.
Right.
If I'm in a position where I see that, if I have the opportunity, I'm going to go take the flag. I'm not going to. What's he going to do? Were you going to hit me? Okay, well, tell the cops I stole your flag that you were about to burn. See if the cops agree with it. Well, he burnt it on the steps, was arrested, fined, ended up suing. Supreme Court ruled that even offensive speech is protected.
Agreed.
So we may not like that he's burning the flag. I'm not going to agree that he's burning a flag.
Right.
Does he have the right to burn it?
It's kind of like fuck your feelings.
Yeah. But it comes with consequences.
That's right.
Someone goes and wants to take it from you. Someone punches you in the face for it. I think what social media companies right now are doing is they're punching us in the face.
Absolutely. It's an agenda. I mean, it's all program, right? I mean, it's anything they want to do on a social side, they can control. We already talked about, you said that they can make words disappear. They make history disappear.
Mm-hmm.
It's, I grew up here in the South. The whole Confederate flag thing, like offending people. I'm half Japanese. I mean, I grew up and I experienced racism because when I was a kid, the people of authority, the teachers, the cops, they were World War II era people.
Yeah.
You think they like Japanese people? No. So I understood what racism is, right? Without looking like an apple fritter and having a spray tan.
Wait, do you mean that racism applies to anybody from another nationality?
Yeah, for sure.
Wait, hold on, Whoopi. Wait.
Yeah, for sure. Being the minority in any country, when I'm white and I go to Africa, like I'm the minority, I expect racism the other way around, and you see it. So
Jewish.
Just being the oddball is going to create a basis for potential racism. It happens,
sure.
Right? So, where was I going with that? It's the Man, I lost the train of thought there. You got
Sorry.
What was the question again, people?
I think it was you're being punched in the face by the social media
yeah,
right
yeah,
now.
the social media people. They have their agenda. They can do what they want. They can rewrite the history however they wish because they control the data. They can make things disappear in the black hole, the abyss of content. And they can, even in the college and the school things, they're seeing the rewriting of history. Like, I think within the next 25 years, slavery probably won't even exist. Like, because it's such an embarrassment. Because think of it, we're from the South, but all the Civil War statues that came down during the BLM movement. Oh, we got to get rid of these Confederate flags and these Civil War people. Like, we don't want to have these reminders of these people that had slaves. Like, that's the narrative, right?
Mm-hmm.
All of those Civil War leaders were Democrats.
Absolutely.
Every one of them. They're removing their own history out of shame, and rightfully so. I get it, but they're saying that it's a conservative thing they're attacking. But
Right.
it's them. It's their history. It's their legacy. They're erasing history.
Yeah.
Under the guise of we're just trying to make things more peaceful, and we don't need these reminders that these Republicans like. Like, Republicans don't like that shit.
No, hell no.
Republicans don't like slavery. Are you kidding me?
Mm-mm.
It just happens to be that's the South.
You know what's ironic is we went to Utah. I will say this, I experienced racism when I was in prison. Of course, we know it exists. I have never been present when it firsthand was experienced out in this environment to a black man. And saying that from being here in Texas, you would think that it happens here. It doesn't. I had a man on my show. His name's Narada Jones. From here, grew up in this area, and he flat out told me, he said he's never personally experienced it. We went to Utah. He came with us, and one other friend of ours. Happened twice. It happened twice, right in front of us, by people in Utah, by shop owners and by a shop owner in a bar.
Your friend's black.
Yeah, both of them were black.
Yeah, well, Utah's pretty damn white.
Oh yeah. But you'd be very surprised because also Utah, that part of Utah, we were in Park City. It's very liberal.
Very liberal.
Very liberal.
That's California winter.
Absolutely. Every person that was working there was from either California or they were on a work visa to come down. They were sponsored work visas. They were all from out of town. Everybody that worked these places. It didn't happen in Texas.
You know, it's still pretty white in Park City, even in the winter.
Extremely.
My wife and I noticed that because she's Puerto Rican, so we notice things like that.
It's very, and we have a very eclectic group of friends. We were there for a bachelor party. He is Hispanic. He's a Mexican Mexican man.
Yeah.
But he's American, but his heritage is Mexican.
Right.
We had a man from Lebanon that was with us, first generation. We had 2 black men that were with us.
You didn't have your token Asian man?
You know
Come
what?
on.
I don't think we had
Come
any
on.
Asians with us. Yeah, there was.
You're racist.
Technically, Lebanon is Asia. I did have to ask that.
I think India is, but I'm not sure about Lebanon.
Yeah, well, I asked him. I said, "Is it either Northern Africa? Is it part of Africa? It's definitely not Europe." But I said, "Is it Northern Africa or is it Asia?" And he says, "Technically, it's Asia."
Okay.
I didn't know that because it's right there.
We'll let you slide.
Yeah, so we did technically have an Asian with us.
All right.
So we had this very eclectic group of guys. Granted, there's 10 of us, you know, some of us are larger, and so you're not going to get in too many issues there. But I'd never firsthand experienced racism like that. And it was blatant. It was blatant, and it was so upsetting. And unfortunately, both of these guys have been conditioned to not care about it and let it go.
Right.
That pissed me off. I was so upset about it. I'll be honest. I sat when it was all said and done, and the emotion, and I resolved it, unfortunately. And it sucks that it took this white guy to address the issue. I felt bad because they just said, "I don't fucking care." And I guess I could have observed that, but these were my friends.
Right.
And I wasn't going to let that shit slide. Especially not into a place where we were going to spend our money, because their money is just as good as mine.
Right.
And so I resolved it, but we went back to the house that night. I'll be honest, I sat there and I cried. I cried for my friends having to internalize that shit.
I'm surprised they hadn't experienced it in any time in their life, even in Texas.
I'll be honest, one of them is he's very wealthy,
Mm-hmm.
and he has experienced it in financial situations. I won't go into detail about it, but he's experienced it in financial situations. And that is unfortunate. They have experienced it. They have certainly experienced it in general.
Mm-hmm.
But I had never personally witnessed
it.
My and it sounds so bad. I shouldn't have to classify or clarify that I have black friends. And I look at them, I just say they're friends, but for the context of the conversation, obviously.
Right.
But I'd never been with any of my black friends and had that happen in person. And it was so jarring to me that it happened in a place like Utah.
Yeah, vacation place.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We were actually treated like shit at most places.
I mean, it's sad. Racism definitely exists. There's no denying it.
Yeah.
You know, I remember being a kid and going to the store with my mom, and the people that worked there would follow us around. Like, I don't know about Japanese being shoplifters, but I guess you guys can follow us around.
Yeah.
I mean, my mom would be like, don't worry about them.
Was your mom, were they first generation, or were they, had the family already been here pre-World War II?
My dad's a Vietnam vet.
Okay.
And so he met my mom when he was stationed in Japan, and I was born in Japan on a Marine base. And we came to America when I was 3.
So you guys, they unfortunately, they didn't have to experience internment camps or anything like that.
No.
Thank God.
No. Well, that's the most recent form of slavery, but nobody talks about that one.
Well,
that one's kind of been rewritten too, you know.
Well, actually, I think because I was listening to Joe Rogan, they actually looked it up, and we could do it here. Yeah. But I think the actual number around the world is somewhere in the 20 million range. There's actually that we know of 20 million people currently in slavery, and I want to say it was somewhere in Africa. No, China was like 8 million or something like that. It's very high. Mm. But there are countries in Africa right now that have millions of people currently in slavery.
Oh yeah.
Look, it's a black eye on America.
Yes.
It's not the fundamentals of what we believe in.
Soon enough, it'll be deleted from history.
Yeah, and that is that's very unfortunate.
Yeah.
It's a lesson that should be learned, not forgotten. We shouldn't eliminate it. It's something that we as a country I think that we should. We know we're better than that. No one here sits here and thinks that slavery was a good thing.
Nobody. But if they can make it disappear, then you get to keep your virtues.
Yeah. Then
you get to say you were super awesome.
Yeah. Yeah, it doesn't work like that.
Yeah, we want reality.
Yeah. I actually got called the most hilarious thing. I actually by somebody, I got called a colonizer.
Oh.
And I'm like, well, what do you define as a colonizer? She says, well, this country was colonized. I said, oh, well, hold on. Because they were colonies, I said, this was a British thing, and India was colonized by the British.
Yeah.
All of northern Africa was colonized by the British. Let's have a conversation here. They were growing their empire. It's totally different.
Right.
Well, she says, well, you're white European. My great-grandparents escaped Germany. We didn't colonize shit.
Yeah.
They came here and changed their names. I mean, if your parents had been, your mom's side of the family had come here pre-World War II, what would they have experienced? That there was no colonization from my family.
No.
So
that's just ignorance, though.
It is, but it is that effort to lump everybody together.
Yeah.
It's that effort to erase this entire idea, this entire society from the history books.
All bad things need to be erased. That's what they think.
Yeah.
All bad things.
It goes back to hard times create hard men. there are so many, and that's kind of why I asked the question. Because I don't think that the kind of people you're going to be around, the kind of people I'm going to be around, are going to be the soft people.
Dude, we see soft people. You can go to the grocery store right now and see a bunch of soft people.
Mm-hmm.
You know, here's a great example, relevant of time, the masks,
Mm-hmm.
right? The CDC last Friday at 4 p.m. in the afternoon on a Friday,
Mm-hmm.
they announced that the masks really weren't effective and that nobody really needs to wear those indoors anymore.
Yeah, 90% of all Americans no longer need to wear masks inside.
And they released that on a Friday while everybody's focused on Ukraine and the war over there going on, right? So they slide this out hoping nobody notices because they've known this shit for the last 2 years. But they finally admitted it because they see the elections coming up and they want to give people a little dose of freedom and let's get back to normal. Well, most of us were living normal. But here's the thing that I talk about weak people.
Mm-hmm.
You still see people wearing them.
Mm-hmm.
And here's the most weakest of the people. The weakest of the people out there in society are the ones that half-ass wear their mask. The ones that have their mask just kind of hanging below their nose or just on the bottom of their chin. And it's like, you are the biggest bitch that exists in this world right now.
Yeah.
Do you know why? Because you don't even believe the mask works, obviously, because if you truly were fearful of air and other people, you'd have that shit all snugged up on your face and as tight as possible, and you'd probably wear 3 masks like Fauci told us one time.
Mm-hmm.
But if you're half-ass wearing it, non-committed to it, you're just being a complacent little bitch. You're just going along and don't want to hurt people's feelings and don't want people to look at me funny, so I just put this thing on my face.
Mm-hmm.
You're a big bitch. You're a soft person.
Absolutely. I actually had, two experiences. Look, granted, Utah from that perspective was wide open. We didn't have to wear masks
They don't
anywhere.
give a shit there.
They didn't care about any of that stuff. It's an outdoor state.
It's like Texas.
Yeah, they didn't care about that. But when we got there, we rented a large van. We're in the car rental place. Again, we left on Saturday, so this had just come out on Friday.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, I read it, and I'm like, yeah, I see it. Call it the fear cycle. It's no longer the 24-hour news cycle. It's 24-hour fear cycle. So part of the fear cycle was releasing this information in the midst of the Ukrainian thing.
Yeah.
So no one paid attention to it. Well, we're standing in line, and my best friend and I, we're going to be the ones driving. The other group of people are standing in the back, and we're just kind of standing off to the side, waiting to be called up to the front, and we're just kind of bantering back and forth with our friends.
Right.
A lady probably, there's nobody behind us, a lady probably 15 feet in front of us, masked. She turns around and she says, "Could you guys please put your mask on?" This is another patron of the car rental place.
Yeah.
And I said, "No, ma'am, I don't have to."
Mask police.
Yeah. She says, "Yes, you do. It's law." I said, "Well, a mandate isn't a law, and it was removed yesterday by the CDC saying that I don't have to wear it indoors anymore, and I'm not on federal property. If I'm on federal property, I have to do that.
Right.
I'm not on federal property. I'm in the car rental building. No." And she's like, "Well, maybe you're not as smart as you think you are." I said, "You're probably right, but at least I can read." And I said, "Go to the CDC website." She didn't say anything from that point. Then on the way back, fortunately, the airline coming back, they tell you to put a mask on, but the whole time they didn't say nothing to us about it. I'm sitting seat 1E. I'm right there with the flight attendants.
Yeah.
The whole time my mask is down. Never said a word to me about it. I just wear one of those like face shield things.
Right.
Never said a thing to me about it. Said goodbye to me when I left. "Thank you, Mr. Husk," blah, blah. As we're walking through the terminal here in Houston, there is a lady doing announcements from one of the gates, calling to people, "Hey, come up to the gate, get your ticket, blah, blah. We're about to close the doors." People that are running late, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
We're just passing by the gate, just walking by. There's 7 of us in a group. None of us have our masks on. The lady literally starts screaming into the PA.
Wow.
That saying, "While you're in the terminal, you must have your mask on." And we just keep walking. And she announces it 4 times. 4 separate times yells at us over the PA, and we're walking by.
Yeah.
We're in a group by ourselves. There's 7 of us. There's nobody else around us. We're 75 feet from her or anybody else at her gate, and they're screaming at us. And I think about that, and I do think that soft people, where it's, well, those are compliant people that they have, they're just really going to go along. They have no desire. But tomorrow, this is not what's happening. But if say tomorrow, the rest of the mandates were lifted, what changed about it? Like how did this all go away? Just boom, boom.
Their agenda changed. So here's a psychological, I love human behavior things. I remember when this shit was first kicking off and nobody really had all the data. We didn't understand what COVID was, and there was a lot of unknowns. And they said, hey, you should mask up because it's probably safe. It's like, well, fuck, I don't want to die of air, you know? So I remember maybe about 5 weeks into it, my wife and I were kind of like, you know, fuck this thing. Like, we go to HEB, and even though they didn't have the signs that it was required to have masks,
Mm-hmm.
like you'd see like people wearing masks.
Mm-hmm.
But I remember wearing the mask at that time, like 4 or 5 weeks into COVID things. It must have been like April sometime in 2020. And I remember like seeing these 2 dudes walk in without a mask, and I was like, those motherfuckers. Like, and I felt that.
Mm-hmm.
And the reason I felt that is because I felt like I was being screwed into wearing it, so they needed to be screwed into wearing it. And I caught myself in that moment of awareness because I have that.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, why do I feel this way? I don't even want to wear this fucking piece of shit mask, but I'm getting mad at them. So think of the millions or the billions of people that are these virtue signals that they don't want to wear those masks. Nobody in their right mind wants to wear this mask.
Right.
But if they feel that they are forced to, then they feel that you are forced to. If I experienced that as someone that didn't even want to wear that, I guarantee that that's what's driving their actions. And the funny thing about that lady that talks shit to you, she's probably used to people just putting their mask on and like agreeing with her.
Mm-hmm.
And
mask shamed.
You know, mask holes,
Mm-hmm.
we say. And those people are not used to meeting people like you or me or my wife out in public, because then they get an earful.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's like, mind your fucking business. We were at a park, outdoor park, a state park, and we're walking by, and some couple and their young teenage kid, the dad had his mask on. He's like, well, looks like some people like don't care about other people. It kind of threw his mask, and my wife was in front of him, and she's like, excuse me, motherfucker? She's like, do you see that we're outside in the fresh air? It's like, she's like, you're a bitch. Like, in front of his family. and he just kind of like didn't expect it. You could see like he was a tall dude. He's probably like 6'3", an older guy, maybe, you know, late 50s.
Mm-hmm.
But you could tell he was not used to being like spoken back to.
Yeah.
And in front of his family, it had to be embarrassing. It had to be really embarrassing. I just laughed at him because I was like, yeah, the Whatleys can take these fools. Like, come on, let's do this.
Yeah.
You know, and I can't stand people that don't mind their own business. You know?
Yeah. We've look, so I knew about the virus back in December of 19, doing business internationally. We knew there was something going on. We didn't know how big it was going to get, what was going on.
Right.
So I'd kind of started putting some stuff out there on Facebook, and I mean, openly, vividly talking about it.
Yeah.
And I put something up that said, and you heard this, I heard it on Fox News, that I thought was cool. Only from this perspective. It said, make altruism good again. What people started seeing in that was that they altruism is literally doing something without gain for yourself.
Yeah.
I mean, that's not the exact definition, but that's the essence of it. You're doing something for somebody else without any gain to yourself whatsoever.
Right.
Now it turned into an entire environment that if you don't do it, then I suffer.
Right.
Forced altruism is not something that we, and that's what it turned into. Yeah.
You're killing grandma if you don't wear the mask. You're killing my grandma if you don't wear your mask.
Yeah. And I hate it when people would say that kind of stuff. You're like, Like, hold on.
That's the agenda. They're programmed.
Yeah.
That's the narrative that they all adopted, that these people running around with a mask on, to them, that was a superhero cape.
Mm-hmm.
That was their effective way of saving the world and generations of people and millions of lives by wearing this fucking superhero cape on their face and virtue signaling along the way.
Yeah.
And making sure they were the mask police, that you put on your cape so we can work together. This is the narrative that they're pumped into, right? It's agreeable people who are obedient.
Yeah.
They don't need the logic. That they just want to be the good person in this regard.
Yeah. Well, it goes back to, like you said, I mean, you know, I don't know, because your podcast, what's the name of your podcast?
365 Driven.
365 Driven. Where can people find that at?
Everywhere.
Everywhere where podcasts are sold.
Right.
Okay. So I put mine on YouTube primarily at this point. You know that prior to Friday that we would not be able to have this conversation on here, that it would be taken down.
Yeah. Because it's misinformation.
Right. Now it's an open discussion that masks generally don't work.
Mm-hmm.
And yes, it does reduce the spread of COVID by a certain percentage if both people are wearing it. But overall...
And they're not spitting on each other.
Right. But social distancing, all that other stuff, not supposed to work. You know, it's supposed to... Whatever. The narrative has... It's like, we could not talk about the Wuhan lab leak 6 months ago.
Nope.
If you said that on any platform whatsoever,
Yep.
you're being deplatformed.
Yep.
Now it is the most plausible and believed way of how this occurred. Now, I listened to a scientist that said he has not personally seen any evidence that it actually came from the lab. But what he's not denying is the fact that it is highly plausible, considering it's where its first outbreak was, and there just happens to be a gain-of-function laboratory
funded by Fauci.
By the way, how the hell does he become the highest paid federal employee? He runs the NIH. He's not curing cancer.
He hasn't done anything in medical side for decades.
Yeah.
He's just been a government official.
He gets paid more than the president of the United States.
Yeah. He's also more influential than the president of the United States for the last 2 years.
That's Absolutely.
Been proven.
Absolutely, 100%. He has more effect on the U.S. populace than any other person.
Yeah.
I think the second largest one would probably be Elon Musk.
Yeah. His tweets.
Yeah, God. Do you own? Did you buy any Doge?
No.
Did you buy any crypto? Do you own crypto at all?
No. I stay out of it.
You stay out of crypto. You do traditional stocks, things like that.
I earn more investing in my companies.
Business.
Yeah.
I've never been a big stock market person. My father made a killing in Ford when it crashed back in like 2004, 2005. Made an absolute killing and stuff like that.
Yeah.
I've only ever lost money. I opened an E-Trade account, I think back in 2002 with like $3,000, and I lost it all in a matter of like 4 months. I even bought on margin and lost everything. So
it's legal gambling. That's all.
Yeah, it really is.
Everything is.
You know, I had and so that I was having this conversation with a couple of the guys. We were in Utah, and one of them's he's a stock trader, and it really is. I mean, all day, every day. But he's not even gambling with his own money.
House money.
Yeah, he's playing with house money the entire time.
Yeah,
and they
chipping away a little bit, keep playing in the house money,
and almost never loses.
Yeah, that's the right way to do it, though.
Yeah, to get it out.
It's kind of like when you go to the casino and you get on the craps table and you rack up a couple wins and you get those chips, and you always like just set aside the initial bet into the next tray, and then you go, okay, I'm going to lose this. This is what I'll bet with now.
Yeah. Yeah, it's I'm just never been a big gambler. I will say that I just recently started buying some Bitcoin, just recently, like within the last 30 days.
Yeah.
And more in very small amounts, very small increments. I'm not spending $43,000.
Curiosity.
It is for me. That's really what it's that little to say, okay, where will this go?
Yeah.
You know,
lottery ticket.
Yeah, it's just entertaining to see it, to kind of see how it goes. Yeah, my dad was a huge lottery player. I never got into it.
No.
Never saw it. But Anyway, Tony, man, I think we've been here for hour and oh Jesus, 2.5 hours. Didn't even realize that.
Good marathon, good conversation.
Hey, I apologized. I didn't even realize I'd kept you here this long, man.
No, it was good. It was
Okay.
good.
Well, look, Tony, Side Hustle Millionaire, 365 Driven. Where can they find the book? Amazon?
Yeah, it's on Amazon.
Amazon? Okay. And man, guys, go buy Tony's book. I can't wait to dig into it. I read some excerpts online, checking into it. I liked it, like the message in there and everything. Man, what's the easiest way if people want to contact you?
Yeah, just go to my website, 365driven.com, and you'll find all my social medias, the book, the podcast, everything on that one website.
Cool. Well, Tony, man, thank you very much for coming on.
Yeah,
I appreciate
good
it, man.
Conversation, brother.
Yeah. All right, Tony Whatley, everybody.